Thank you all. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamas.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. We'll move on now to report on closed session, confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mayor, council members, members of the public, the council convened in open session at 5:37 p.m. and after ascertaining that there were no public comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration, adjourned to closed session at 5:37. You came back at 6:24 p.m. and with respect to each of the matters on the closed session agenda, I will do a closed session written report consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 5497.1. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council?
No, sir.
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll proceed now to proclamations and presentations. Well, it gives us great pleasure this evening to do a proclamation on June 2023 Pride Month. June 2023 Pride Month, whereas the City of American Canyon recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2023 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ Pride Month throughout the City of American Canyon. And whereas the City of American Canyon observes Pride Month with a pride flag raising ceremony to honor the history of the LGBTQ liberation movement and to support the rights of all citizens who experience equality, freedom from discrimination. And whereas the rainbow flag is widely recognized as a symbol of pride, inclusion, and support for social movements that advocate for LGBTQ people within our community. And whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, LGBTQ individuals have made immeasurable impacts on the culture, civic, and economic success of our country. And whereas the City of American Canyon is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ people in our diverse community. And whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for our education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the American Canyon LGBTQ community, and is an opportunity to act, engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. And whereas the City of American Canyon encourages everyone to participate in the Pride Month pop-up on June 7th, 2023 at Community Park 2. That would be from 11 to 5 p.m. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Leon Garcia, Mayor, City of American Canyon, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month, and that the rainbow flag will be raised for the entire month of June in support of our LGBTQ community to recognize the influential and lasting contributions they contribute to making our vibrant community to which we live, work, and visit. Please come forward and accept it. So, Janissa Dewa from the American Canyon chapter of the LGBTQ Plus Connection in Napa County. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Genesis Diwa. I am the Youth Development Advocate for LGBTQ Connection, Napa County. I want to, well, thank you, first of all, for the proclamation and for also sharing the announcement about our event on Saturday, June 17th. I wanted to talk about just a little bit about the context and the history of Pride. So the roots of Pride began with Black and brown resistance to police brutality in the 1960s. I want to name two historical figures in that movement, and those two are Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson. Both advocates who worked tirelessly to uplift the voices of those who were silenced and disregarded by larger movements. Sylvia Rivera was a Latina trans woman. Marsha P. Johnson herself was an African American self-identified drag queen and activist. Both of them were involved in the Stonewall Uprising in 1969 in New York City, and which led to the Gay Pride movement, which is what we celebrate today. And in their lifetime, they've also brought in a lot of youth who were abandoned or kicked out of their homes for being LGBTQ. My work today as a youth advocate is an echo of their legacies. I work at the middle schools, high schools, and next school year we're going to be working at the college all across Napa County. We're also in Sonoma County. And I work with youth one-on-one and in group settings to help them feel less isolated. I support them with mental health, with their academics. I recently just helped a student get a $5,000 scholarship.
Hey, way to go.
And it was an LGBTQ scholarship, so I was really, really proud of that. And I also advocate for them in ways that the school, that schools and the community really need to step up and support, because they, as you all can imagine, are going through so much right now, as we all are, but especially the youth at a time when they're trying to figure themselves out. That's why your support and visibility at an event like American Canyon Pride can mean a world of difference. Amidst all of the current anti-LGBTQ attacks taking place all across the country, our youth who feel isolated or unsafe in such antagonistic times would love to see you there, or even however you can contribute, whether that's at home or in the community, showing them that you care and that they matter. So please join us in celebrating the beautiful diversity of our community with an array of festivities for everyone to enjoy. Local artists, music and dance performances, food and shop vendors, resources, and much more. Let your voices be heard and express your true colors loud and proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll do a photo. Yep, council, come forward. Again, come out and enjoy the June Pride Month celebration at Community Park 2, 11 to 5 on Saturday, June 17th. Another great day we're going to celebrate here. We're going to have the Juneteenth Independence Day. I think Brenda Knight is here to accept. You want to come to the podium, please? And I know you've been working very hard and have a lot of things planned.
Yes. I'd like to also have the committee to.
Oh, they can come join you, yes. Well, thank you all for being here this evening. It's a great honor for the city to have this proclamation recognizing Juneteenth Independence Day. Juneteenth Independence Day. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln issued an Emancipation Proclamation declaring that all enslaved people in the rebellious states would be then and henceforth forever free. And whereas President Lincoln believed slavery to be in violation of the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and that its abolition represented a new birth of freedom for the United States. And whereas although President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation freeing slaves in January 1863, it was not until June 19th, 1865, that Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, announcing the end of the Civil War and bearing federal orders proclaiming the end of slavery in the South and the southwestern United States. And whereas Juneteenth, or Juneteenth Independence Day, has a special meaning to African Americans, which combines the words of June and 19th, commemorating the traditional observance of the end of slavery in the United States and the observance of annual June 19th. And whereas Juneteenth is an important opportunity to honor the principles of the Declaration of Independence and celebrate the achievements and contributions of African Americans have made and continue to make in the city of American Canyon and areas across our nation. Whereas on June 18, 2023, in partnership with the American Canyon Arts Foundation, the city of American Canyon will be celebrating Juneteenth at Main Street Park. This unforgettable community event will celebrate African American heritage, history, and freedom through the cultural ceremonies and activities that reflect the power of the community, family, art, and tradition. And now therefore be resolved that I, Leon Garcia, Mayor, City of American Canyon, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Independence Day in celebration of this day and encourage the City of American Canyon community to attend the Juneteenth community event on June 18, 2023 at Main Street Park. Very good.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Knight, and the event planner working with the Arts Foundation, and thank you to the city as well, as we prepare to celebrate this Community Fest this year, the Juneteenth Community Fest. I gave it that name this year because so much has been going on. We have had so many African-American young men shot and killed, African-American women shot and killed. We are just full of all that's been happening in all the communities throughout the United States. So we're going to take a breather to have a family event, to have a community event, for us to just enjoy one another. And you know, music is the thing that helps you to calm down and to embrace one another. The one thing I like about American Canyon is that our community has unity. And we are going to be celebrating that on June 18th. I was with some ladies and they were asking me, why is your flyer so big? I said, because in American Canyon, we do things in a big way. And so we have flyers here for you tonight. We have had some wonderful sponsors for the event. Walmart has even stepped up to allow us to park, so we don't have to be concerned about people crossing the highway. And there are so many wonderful, wonderful sponsors, and I have to name them because I told them I would. Walmart, Visit Napa Valley, Benz Company, Napa Ford, City of American Canyon, Fast Signs, American Canyon Arts Foundation, the Lions Club, Recology, the Chamber of Commerce, Napa Junction, Lanice, I'm not sure the name, Cotton, Napa Valley Vintners, and our Community and Parks Foundation.
Right.
For that many people to come together, and I didn't know if the attorney will allow me to say his name if it's okay. Yes, I didn't know if that would be proper or not, but
Oh, by all means.
Mr. Ross did. He was
Thank
the
you, Mr.
sponsor.
Ross.
And we have so much support coming from the fire department, who will be there with our kids on. I'm working again with the fire chief and with our hired security, and everybody just plays a role. And Allie, thank you for always taking those calls, because you guys don't know, I be calling her at all hours of the day, night, and she, you know, she'll answer, yeah, Brenda, yeah, I'm okay, yeah. And so, so thank you, Allie. But this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful event. We thank you for the proclamation. And did you know we are celebrating 160 years this year from the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. So this year I am really thrilled to be here celebrating. You will hear some fantastic gospel music, some fantastic blues, jazz, and R&B. And we invite you to please invite your friends, you come out. And I have to end because it wouldn't be Brenda Knight, the advocate, if I didn't say something about this. I don't want to bring a damper to tonight, but I must say at a future date, we will come back together to talk about why your flag flies all month and our flag goes up and come down over a weekend. So we will have some discussion about that. Either we all do or we all have the same. And so at a future date, let's have a conversation, okay? But until then, it's unity in the community. Thank you so much for the proclamation.
Thank you, Brenda. Oh, we got a picture. Get your committee together. Right, here you go. Hey.
You guys coming from the front or too many people? Are you stepping already?
That's all right. That's all right. Come here. All right. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. All right. Good to see you again. Hello. Good to see you. We're going to take a photo picture now.
You're one of the best we got.
Should probably take this one out now. Yeah. Hello, how are you? Yeah, this one. Just drag it into the, guess that, right?
Trouble with the,
Oh, we took it out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes. All right.
Perfect. All right, my friend.
Perfect, thank you, sir.
I do enjoy your presentation. She found a way to get something
Oh, nice,
engaging that
thank you.
can be a little technical.
You like these?
I love those.
Okay. If you change your mind, they'll be right there.
To be obsessed with Slim
County Council will finish with our presentations this evening. Presentation, City of Napa Housing Authority Annual Report.
Evening, Mayor Garcia.
Good evening and
council members.
welcome.
Thank you for having me. I promise I will not be as enlightening as these folks, but I will do my best to provide adequate information to give you an update on what's been happening with the Housing Authority and the work we do.
Well, we're
on
looking
behalf of
forward to
the city.
that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm here in general to provide a brief report on the housing services provided by the Housing Authority under our service agreement. slide to, oh, maybe it's this way. Where am I pointing this? Down? No. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it. So the city contracts annually with the Housing Authority to provide a variety of housing services. The services provided in American Canyon include technical assistance related to a variety of housing functions, including assistance with affordable housing development work, funding resources that are available, monitoring of the affordable housing projects that currently exist, and rental assistance. Additionally, the Housing Authority is contracted to administer the city's home, CDBG, Cal Home, and Begin grants. One of the main functions of the Housing Authority is to administer the rental assistance programs countywide, including the City of American Canyon. Our biggest program in the Housing Authority is the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Annually, HUD awards the Housing Authority grant funds to provide rental assistance to very low and low-income households. These grant funds are issued to households and assisting them with paying rent and market rate units. There are currently 132 households in American Canyon receiving rental assistance, which represents a roughly 6% increase from last fiscal year. 12 American household residents are on the waiting list, which should be expended by the end of May next year. So then it'll reopen, we'll do it again. There are 34 project-based vouchers issued at Valley View Senior Homes, 17 of which are VASH, to assist the chronically homeless veterans in the community.
Excuse me, VASH, what's the acronym stand for?
Ooh. You'll forgive me if I'll have to get that back to you. It's Veterans Assistance Services.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. No. There we go. Okay, 3 of the American Canyon voucher holders participate in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. They receive assistance services, counseling, education, job training, with the idea of becoming fully independent, no longer requiring government assistance. There are 7 American Canyon households who receive assistance under our non-elderly disabled persons voucher program. These special vouchers provide assistance to the non-elderly disabled persons or households with a disabled person. And 17 American Canyon families receive rental assistance through the Family Unification Program. This program works in collaboration with the Nappy County Welfare Services to provide assistance to families who lack housing places for their children outside the home or in order to return children to the home. This program provides transitional housing for older teens coming out of foster care to secure appropriate and safe housing. And these families can remain on the program as long as they remain Section 8 eligible. So under our rental assistance programs, each household meets annually with one of our staff members to recertify their income, their benefits, to make sure that they're paying the appropriate amount so that they are safe. We also inspect the units biannually, at least, with one of our housing inspectors to make sure that they are physically safe. And the 17 American Canyon households in the FUT program, that's a 30% increase. Quite a few came on through that this year. The other area of countywide activities that the Housing Authority works on is representing the city in the homeless services projects. The Housing Authority was recently awarded 52 emergency housing vouchers under the American Rescue Act. 2 of those vouchers are currently being used in American Canyon. These vouchers were used countywide and designated to assist those households who are at risk of homelessness or currently homeless, or who are fleeing domestic violence or human trafficking. The Housing Authority worked collaboratively with Napa County, Abode Services, and News to utilize all these vouchers, and received accommodation by utilizing them so fast. I think it was within the top 5 agencies across the nation in rapid deployment of the vouchers. Housing staff represents the City of American Canyon at a monthly Continuum of Care meeting where local nonprofits, housing agencies, County Health and Human Services all gather to discuss strategies that we can work toward developing programs to help the homeless countywide. And annually, the Continuum of Care applies for HUD grants to fund housing services and case managers for rental assistance. This past year, HUD renewed our grant for $886,000, which is a $42,000 increase from the prior year, which was great to see because we need as much help as we can get. The next area is our base services. So under this area, we provide compliance monitoring for the city's affordable housing units. This often deals with regulatory agreements. A lot of the affordable housing complexes have these agreements to ensure that they maintain affordability. And what we do for the city is make sure that it is being done. So that includes verifying annual occupancy of units for those who have borrowed funds for down payment assistance, for rehab assistance for their homes. And for the rental projects, we make sure that tenant certifications are being done, that they're providing the right amount of affordable units at the right levels, and that they are following through keeping up the units. And we will provide technical assistance for any new units coming on board or new trainings when property management changes. We often have to bring them up to speed on what the regulatory agreements mean and how they can better serve the community. Also under our base service agreement is loan servicing. We conduct the annual owner occupancy monitoring for all first-time home buyers and owner-occupied rehabilitation loans. We verify that the homeowners still live there, that the properties are covered with insurance. If they are in a mobile or manufactured home, that the HCD title fees are currently paid. And we also respond to any loan payoff requests or refinancing or subordination requests, which we expect will rapidly decline as the interest rates continue to rise, unfortunately. And additional services. So the Housing Authority administers the city's home, Cal Home, CDBG, and Begin grants. In 2019, a home grant application was awarded to the City of American Canyon to continue to operate the first-time homebuyer program and owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. So HCD has issued the funds, has approved the contract for the city to use, but only for owner-occupied rehabilitation. The first-time homebuyer program has been stopped for this particular grant source across the state. So at this time, the city is just operating it with the owner-occupied rehab, and there are quite a few households. There are 13 approved applications at this point, and 5 of which are in the bid process. So by next fiscal year, we'll have probably quite a few homes that have been rehabilitated to help those households. And lastly, the housing manager and myself are always available to provide any support you may need or answer any questions you may have. And thank you for your time, and I'll be here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you for your presentation. I think we have some lights sit here for Councilmember Joseph had a question.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for the report. And one of the areas that I've been really concerned about is trying to figure out how do we get more condominium, townhome, home ownership opportunities. And I realize the private sector isn't motivated to do that for a variety of economic reasons. And so I'm now thinking, well, maybe the public sector has to do something. And the first step is there anything that the Napa Housing Authority can do in that regard? Do you have contacts with nonprofits that build condos for resale, for deed restrictions and so forth, or anything else along that line that might give us something to work with?
Certainly. There are a few developers in the area who are working on projects kind of throughout the county, and we're closely watching them to see what kind of work they produce before we start pushing them toward everybody else. We do want to see them carry through these projects. It takes a village to create these kind of opportunities. We have to be aggressive at any kind of opportunity for funding we can gather. And the down payment assistance programs were one of the ways we could do it kind of slowly, but they're becoming more infeasible as the interest rates rise and things of that nature. So it will be looking toward development in the future, I would imagine, for all the communities to try to pull these things off. And it'll be just gathering all the resources possible from every entity.
So there are companies, local developers that are interested or willing to build condos for resale versus apartments?
There are developers looking at those feasibility studies, and penciling wise, it's pretty close. It looks like it can work.
Okay.
It's just a matter of the right property, right place, right time.
Right. Because I know the city has a very limited number of parcels that it owns that it could offer up to facilitate, but you got to have somebody to build it too. So that's a little encouraging. So it's just a matter of getting all the members of the village together. So
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, thank you for your report. And I had 2 questions. One of them actually was what Councilmember Joseph just asked about the townhome option, so thank you for answering that question. But Has there been any staffing increase on your end to support the increase in people taking advantage of the Section 8 portion?
Yes, with the increased program funding from the Emergency Housing Voucher Program and the rental assistance sources, we have had to increase our staff in order to keep up. And we're trying to gain efficiencies too to make it work, but yes, we are growing in order to accommodate and help
And I
people.
guess the second part of that question will be, are we extending that invitation out to American Canyon people to employ or to apply for those type of positions?
Always,
Okay.
always, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your presentation on that. I think your work certainly speaks to the heart of a very important issue with housing for workforce and families, lower income individuals.
Yes, thank you.
And all the cost of living just keeps rising and rising, and it's just getting more and more difficult for people.
We are very passionate about what
Many
we
are-
do, and it's important.
Many are displaced from their living quarters right now, so.
Mhm.
And a huge homeless issue as well as a result.
Right.
So I really thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for your time. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, moving on in our agenda, I think we're going to have a postpone the Napa Fair Housing. Mr. Holly?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. Fair Housing Napa Valley has requested a continuance on
We're going to
that
continue?
item.
Okay, very good. We'll pick it up at another time. Okay, this is time for public comment on items not on the agenda. Anybody attending wishing to comment?
Yes,
Keep your-
Mayor Garcia, I have Victor Roman.
I did have a lot to say, but everybody already spoke about what I was going to discuss. So you mentioned a lot about it, about the propagation, about LTG, the flags, and all that stuff. I was actually going to concur on Juneteenth, talk about it, what it means, what it is. But the young lady, she's promoting it. This is the second time. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm ad-libbing. I had it. I got my script, but it's all out the window right now. But I'll go into something a little different. I would like for the community to try to support The Little Mermaid. As you know, there's been a backlash because she's black. And it's kind of funny that my community is always probably being used in the industry. Basically, you guys have no problem becoming Egyptian kings and queens, but when it comes to a young black girl doing a fictional cartoon character, basically you have an issue with that. So I'm trying to say stop the bigotry, the racism and the hate, and support black media. Juneteenth coming up soon, and it's also going to be Father's Day. Keep that in mind. So on that note, and there's only one more thing I want to say. I know American prides itself on diversity, but I have a question. I've been out here for a little while, but I really don't see any black officers in the police department. I really don't see black firemen in the community. If someone could tell me, what's the statistics on that, maybe I may feel a little bit better about that. This is a very inclusive, diverse, equality community. But at this point in 2023, American Canyon consists of 60% of people of color, 40% of white. So I'm asking, where's the inclusion in the community? And also, I think it's time for us to be at the table instead of being on the menu. So I figure I'll just say that. I would prefer to have the Reddit, so I'm just ad-libbing it, but you took some of my knowledge, and the other sister did too. So thank you, and that's it. And please get back to me on my water bill. My water bill is up to $400, $486. You said you was gonna get back to me, and you haven't, so, you know, it's
Thank
been
you.
3 months.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Just reflects that we're all very much on the same page. Is there another speaker?
Mayor, council, and staff, I just want to express my appreciation for your courage, for acknowledging the importance of all of us, whether it's culture, race, sexual identity. It's all important to be able to be recognized and having understood that all of us are important. And I thank you for your courage, and I thank you for the staff in the city for the courage. Because I'm reminded every day of people who are not. Coming into Costco, leaving Costco the other day, some not older gentlemen, but middle-aged, start ranting about all these ne'er-do-wells who are coming in here and they're asking him for his ID. Today, while I was going past Starbucks, another middle-aged man on his bike yelled out at the Asian people sitting in Starbucks and just flipped the bird. And I myself don't understand hate. I find it very difficult to do that. And whenever these acts, I feel it personally, even when it's in the news and all this stuff, and that's just me. So I recognize the importance, and I'm glad you do too, and I thank you very much, and I appreciate you every day. Thank you. Thank the city staff and the city for making it a welcoming place for everyone. Yes, and my wife says our March water bill was way off, so to find out what's going on.
Thank you for your comments. Really speaks well of who we our values in American Canyon. Is there another speaker?
Can you hear me?
Can now, yes.
I
Very
just
good.
wanted to thank the city for that wonderful meeting we had the other night about the ecology center that Janelle is doing. It was so nice to see so many people here making comments, good comments, and it makes me proud. We do have a wonderful city. And anyway, thank you for that meeting. It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it was. I'm looking forward to that. Yes, well, thank you for we have a new device, obviously, there, and it comes in handy. Thank you. We should remind ourselves that that's accessible to those who need it. Any other speaker from the community, in the audience tonight? Okay, do we have anybody online?
We do. I have Hugh Marquez. Go ahead, Hugh.
Am I there?
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I second what Fran said about Janelle and the American Canyon Parks Foundation. I found it very informative. It was nice to be updated on the progress that is going on with that. I think it's a real asset to our community. The second thing I come to you about is I'm a road guy, and I see that on the agenda we have the Rancho Del Mar, and I just want to, and I guess it'll be clarified at that time, if that's the area that I've been complaining about that has roads that are a mess. And the reason I ask that is because Donaldson Way is the same way from James Road to Elliott. It's a mess. And I'm trying to find out, with all this money that the federal government gave and all the money the state was supposed to be given for infrastructure, of what kind of priority some of our roads are going to take. Without our infrastructure, our city does not does not look like a well-maintained city. And I think about the damage due to our fire engines as a firefighter, as a fire engineer who drives, and I see some of these roads, and I know that our firefighters go down. I'm sure they're very cautious. It's damaging our our equipment if they have to go down these roads. And I'm curious as to what progress we have. I know we have a 5-year plan, and there's some roads that were planned, and I'm still trying to figure out how West Donaldson in front of the park is a road that needs to be redone when we have roads that have holes and gaps and ditches. And so I'm just curious as to when, what kind of evaluation the Public Works is doing for our roads. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker. Anybody else online?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay, very good. I think what Mr. Marquez was speaking to is, has some issues on our agenda tonight with our plans, right?
Yeah, Mayor, I suspect as part of the CIP item tonight, we'll get some additional clarification about the projects that will be undertaken up in the upcoming year and some explanation that hopefully will answer Hugh's questions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
No one else online.
Okay. Last call for anybody in the audience who wants to speak. Seeing none, we'll close public comment now on items not on the agenda and proceed with our agenda. Any agenda changes, council? If there are none, we can move to the consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second to accept the consent calendar. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdamos,
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, council. Move on now to public hearings. Item 16, fiscal year 2023-24 recommended budget for adoption.
Yep, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City
Evening.
Council, and members of the public. Juan Gomez, Finance Director for the city. And tonight, I'm pleased to present to you the 2024-23 recommended budget for the city for the next coming fiscal year here.
So you're going to show us the money. Very good.
That's right. And I'm having, it's not going, David. May have to invest in new equipment.
I think if you just use the arrows.
No.
It's in your presentation, is it? Wow.
back in business.
All right,
Third
thank you,
time's the charm.
thank you, sir. All right, so as you recall from last time, this is our budget calendar. We kicked off in February. In March and April, we continued to refine the budget, revenues and expenditures, and then in May, we went to the Finance Subcommittee, presented this budget, and also to the City Council presentation, did a City Council presentation in May, and then we finalized the CIP. So we're now here in June for the City Council adoption, and then also later this evening, you'll see a presentation for the fiscal year 24 to 28 CIP. After this is adopted, then we'll refine the transparency portal, which has a lot of information. Folks can drill in and take a look at the budget and all the line items that are included and how we develop this budget. So to begin with, we'll look at the general fund for fiscal year 24. As you can see from fiscal year 22 actuals, we had a net surplus of $381,000. Fiscal year 23 has a projected surplus of $2.3 million. And our proposed budget that we're bringing here tonight has a operational surplus of $122,000, but has a change in fund balance or a deficit of $4.9 million. And as we've been speaking in the previous presentations, is the majority of that is this $5.037 million that is moving out at a fund balance, and we're moving it out to what we call our renovation and replacement funds. What we're using is one-time money that we had in fiscal year 23, and also restructuring the fund balance. And we'll go into that a little later, but essentially what we're doing is creating new renovation and replacement funds, for parks, streets, civic facilities, kind of take care of what we need now, knowing that things are going to need help, work, repairs, and so forth. So we'll start building that money up for those replacements. For the general fund revenue assumptions, we're assuming $28.9 million. As you can see, our largest revenue here is property tax at $13.3 million. That's an increase of $560,000 or 4.4 over fiscal year 23. And you see we've shown this dollar bill before. American Canyon, of that $1 property tax, we get 29 cents of every dollar. Some other agencies throughout the county, as you can see, gets some of the other share of that $1 bill. Sales tax, $4.5 million is what we're anticipating. That is $130,000 or 3% increase over fiscal year 23. That is excluding, again, as I mentioned in previous presentations, excluding a $1.5 million one-time recovery that we received from a taxpayer that originally wasn't reporting in the city, and then we had a favorable sales tax determination from the state indicating that that money actually belongs to the city. Of the 7.75% sales tax that folks pay at a retail store, Walmart, car dealerships, or so forth, 7.75, the city gets 1% of that sales tax. So the rest, as you can see, the majority of that goes to the state of California general fund. Measure T gets 50 cents, State Public Safety Fund 50 cents, and some of these other small ones. Quickly, just to mention, we not only get the 1% from retail sales or restaurant sales or alcohol sales, but we also get what's called a share of the county pool. So when you buy something online from Amazon or something, that goes into a county pool. That doesn't get allocated to actually your residents, you being a resident here in the city of American Canyon. It goes to the county pool, and then based on our proportion of that county pool, we get a percentage of that. And currently our percentage is about 9.5%. So for every dollar that's purchased online of sales tax, we get approximately 9.5% of that on top of the 1% that we see here. Also, transit occupancy tax. These are our TOT tax. These are our hotel taxes that we impose on folks staying at the hotels. We're anticipating approximately $1.9 million, increase of $344,000 or 22% over fiscal year 23. You can see that 12% is paid by the guests that stay at those hotels, and City of American Canyon gets the full 1%. Now, we're not really anticipating any large increases, very small increases on the existing hotels in town. The majority of this increase here is represented by the new hotel that's opening up sometime in December or January. So Majority of that, probably 19% of that, is attributed to that new hotel coming online later this year. Franchise fees, we're anticipating $1.1 million. Mainly is an increase in solid waste revenue. That's increasing 36% or $124,000. We also get franchise fees from natural gas, electricity, your PG&E, cable television, et cetera. Building permits and plan checks at $1.2 million. That's an increase of 10% over fiscal year 23. As you can see, as you drive around town, you see the development happening around town. Fiscal year 21, for example, we had $550,000. Fiscal year 22, we had $700,000. Fiscal year 23, we had $1.1 million. Now we're anticipating 1.2. So you can see that ramp up, and as you look around town, obviously, we're getting a lot of development activity, hence permit revenue out throughout the city. Interfund transfers for support services at $2.4 million. That's an increase of 25% over fiscal year 23. We are really seeing a lot of, over the last couple of years, increases in insurance costs, just to insure our buildings, insure our vehicles, and so forth. Those premiums are increasing. I'm sure everybody can see those premiums increasing on your own personal insurance plans. It's just that really started with the wildfires. You know, the insurance companies really started upping up their premiums. So we're not immune to that. We're also seeing those increases here. Parks and Rec revenues, we're anticipating $413,000. Really no change in existing programs. We have added a new program, the day camp program, and that's anticipated to bring in $77,000 a year. Last time I showed a spreadsheet. I wanted to show kind of this pie chart here on where the general revenues come from. As you can see, the majority is property tax here at 46%, followed by sales tax at 15.6%. And then we have the rest of this pie is made up a bunch of other revenues. We have transfers in, we have the franchise tax fees here, transit occupancy tax, license and fees, charges for services, and investment return, interest and rents on our portfolio. So the total revenues we're anticipating for the general fund is $28.9 million. Now, on the flip side, as we look at general fund expenditures, $28.8 million on an operational level, $33.9 after that $5 million transfer that I mentioned earlier. Salaries and benefits at $9.5 million, or 33% of the budget. That's an 8.9% increase over fiscal year 23. That includes salary increases for our employees based on the MOUs. That includes increases in health insurance and workers' comp, et cetera, that we're seeing. We are seeing a decrease in pension costs. As I mentioned earlier in one of my presentations, the CalPERS system earned a favorable return in fiscal year 21. Hence, that decreased our unfunded liability, requiring us to make less payments. Police services is $8.5 million, or approximately 30% of our total expenditure budget. That's a 10.9% increase over fiscal year 29. We are adding one new position. That's going to be a new motor sergeant, which we anticipate will start October of 2023. That new sergeant will be over our traffic division, our CSOs, and just monitoring and helping alleviate and coming up with ideas to alleviate traffic and traffic enforcement throughout the city. Also, we have a small contract amendment for patrol car equipment in the amount of $173,000. Initially, the city has historically paid for the patrol equipment, radios, laptops, et cetera. That's moving over to the county so that they can procure those. We're gonna see a reduction in our internal service fund for fleet, but that's gonna be increase here in our general fund expenditures. Internal service fund charges of $2.1 million. That is what we pay for IT, fleet, legal services. That is an increase of $680,000. Building maintenance, fleet, IT, and legal are ISFs there. We are, again, as I mentioned in the previous presentation, we are seeing increases in our IT services. The fleet, we are with our new enterprise leasing service. where we're replacing the vehicles on an annual basis. This coming year, we're anticipating to get approximately 14 new vehicles, hence those lease costs and those internal service charges go up. And non-departmental, these are charges that don't fit into any one department. We have charges for animal shelter at $330,000, sales tax recovery fee of $165,000. That fee is to pay for the recovery that we have a consultant. We recovered $1.5 million. They get a percentage of that, hence this is their fee for finding and adjusting and correcting that error on the state side. Property tax admin fee that we pay to Napa County in $96,000, animal control for $63,000, and our community grants program contributions of $30,000. And here are the transfers out to the new funds. We're proposing that we move $4.9 million into what we're calling our renovation and replacement funds, and $100,000 to our pension stabilization fund. The idea with the pension stabilization fund is to put in some seed money into this fund so that we can kind of mitigate any spikes in our pension contributions. Depending on what CalPERS earns, they actually can lose money, and requiring us to pay more into that system. And here are new funds that we're proposing to create: our Parks Fund, Streets Fund, Buildings. We also have a Public Safety Internal Service Fund, and our Pension Stabilization Fund. Now, what we're doing is again, as I mentioned, we're using one-time funds that we received, that $1.5 million in fiscal year '23, and we're also reassigning our existing fund balance. We had fund balance in the Economic Development Reserve and a CIP reserve. Now, the CIP reserve and Economic Development Reserve were sitting there for a couple of years. They haven't really been used. What we're doing is we're shifting some of this money into some funds that will have a real purpose to replace and renovate streets, parks equipment, fields, et cetera. So this is kind of the idea in terms of that transfer out of $5 million. And as you can see here, these are our general fund expenditures of $33.9 million. Now, all of this is available in our transparency portal. Real quickly, I'll just click on this and we'll go into our transparency portal. This is online on the city's website. You can see here all our expenditures. You can see last year's here. Oh, I'm not showing that, huh? Well, I think we had technical difficulties last time too, so. You can get it up?
Just minimize this if I could. Excuse me. And you're going through the website, correct?
Yeah.
Reading Google?
Right there.
This one?
There we go. Yep.
Okay, let me take this out of the presentation mode.
I had it working earlier.
We'll get there, boss. Give me just a moment.
I can come back to it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I can come back to it.
Okay, let me get you back to your presentation.
Yeah, we can come back to that. So these are our general fund expenditures. You can see all our charges. The largest is going to be here our supplies and services, sheriff's contract, salaries and benefits. But again, in our transparency portal, which hopefully we can get up a little later, we can drill in there and you can actually just click on any one of these pies from the pie chart and you can go in there and see exactly the line items that we have. So what does that do to our fund balances? Our fund balances at the end of fiscal year '23 is $14.9 million. As we move that $5 million out to those repair and replacement plans, we're looking at a $9.9 million fund balance in the general fund. And really what our intention for the fund balance in the general fund is really to only have the general fund reserve, our 25% contingency, which we're anticipating to fully fund this year at a 25% target or 6.6%. And on an unassigned fund balance at $1.8 million, and all other is 1.5. The all others are restricted or reserved fund balances. Those that we cannot use, those are that are reserved for either debt services or can't easily be converted, like there's property that we own as well in the city. And as we look at those new repair and replacement and pension funds, there's that $5 million that we're creating and that we're funding into those new funds at $5 million. Now, our intention is not to fund and put money into these funds and just let it sit there. We're actually going to actively monitor these, see what the needs are throughout the community, put money in there, and then actively use this. So this coming year, we're funding it at $5 million, but we're also, this year we've identified projects to the tune of $737,000, shade canopy at Northampton, a restroom at Northampton Park, Community Park 1 improvements of $300,000, and irrigation controller upgrades of $152,000. Now, these are all projects that are included in the CIP. They are going to be mentioned in the CIP presentation that is forthcoming. So as we look forward here in the general fund, positive outlooks, a lot of development activity throughout the city. City continues to be active in terms of development, a lot of housing, a lot of activity out there that brings in increased property tax revenues, that brings in increased hotel revenues with the new hotels that are coming online, new civic and park facility improvements. We have the old Napa Junction Elementary School that we're renovating and using as a facility for our day camps currently, and the creation of the renovation and replacement fund. So this is our first step to be self-sufficient and really identify what needs replacement and fund it in a systematic and deliberate way. We're not without challenges as well. Economic uncertainty. Economy still is kind of shaky. Interest rates are still really high. It's cutting into a lot of folks' households' budgets. Significant deferred maintenance and unfunded CIP. This is a big one that we're kind of just at the mercy of CalPERS and their investment returns. Hopefully they earn what they say they're going to earn. We're modernizing and upgrading our technology here in the city, and that costs money as well. And then community amenities and increased services as we build more housing. As more people live here, there's more demand for police services, more demand for parks, more demand for services and events. That also, requires more funding. This is a pretty big chart, but this is our 10-year forecast. This is us taking out our crystal ball and looking ahead, and really what the real, the more accurate years are going to be the first 2 years. Obviously, we know how the economy is going. We know those projects that are in the pipeline. As we move out here towards this 10-year forecast, they're more of just inflators, maybe a 2% or 3% inflator. But as we look at our revenues here, we're at $28.9 million. We're moving to 31, 33, 34, 35, 36 million. Okay, so at the end of 10 years, we're at 37 million. The majority of that is brought here in property tax. Property tax is increasing roughly 5 to 6% in the next 2 years. Obviously, that's the result of those developments coming to fruition and folks residing in them and then being placed on the property tax roll. Sales tax is pretty stagnant here in the next year or two. Still a lot of economic uncertainty. There's still a slowdown. Really, we're not anticipating a whole lot. We're being a little bit conservative. TOT, again, we're seeing some pretty big increases in TOT. That is a result of the new hotel coming online. We have 2 hotels that have in the pipeline that are planned for construction in the next couple of years. So that revenue source looks like it's increasing here pretty substantially and then tapers off in fiscal year 29, 30, and 31. So what does that mean for our fund balance? So as we look at our fund balance here at almost $10 million, we have a surplus, projected surplus every year, 1.4 million, 3.1 million, about 3 million, averaging out to about $2.5 million every year. Now, that's taking into account all the new development that's coming online, property tax, sales tax, TOTs, all the new permit activities. That it's also on the expenditure side, taking into account salary increases, our sheriff's contract, utility increases, professional services, et cetera. Now, this fund balance here is a way for us now to look at funding those repair and replacements on an annual basis. We have some capacity here with these fund balances moving forward to allow us to put money on a yearly basis. Now, obviously, as more residents come here and live here, and there's an increase for services, this doesn't include any increase in staff, increase in police services, et cetera. This is just our baseline that we're anticipating right now. And this is something that, with council direction, we can bring up to the finance subcommittee, or we can have a finance subcommittee appoint maybe 2 other council members, and this is something that we can discuss. How we want to approach this. Is it a percentage every year of surpluses that we want to put into these repair and replacements? How much do we want to allocate to potential increases in services, renovation, et cetera? So this is a conversation that we can have at a later date with council direction on how we want to move forward with these projected surpluses. Now, although these are, I would say, somewhat conservative, I think we've always kind of in government been somewhat conservative. We want to, we don't want to really project too high, but I think these are healthy numbers. Obviously, with development, there's pros and cons. One of the pros being increased revenues and more funding available for other services throughout the city. Now, just a different presentation of that same chart that you saw here. You can see that these are our revenues on the teal blue. Our expenditures here are in orange. You can see that every year we're having surpluses. The green line here represents our fund balance. Our fund balance is currently sitting around $10 million, and you can see that going up. Now, again, this is not taking into account increases to services and staff and so forth, that every year, we would come to council like we are doing now with a new budget presentation if we need increase in staff or services. But again, I just wanted to bring this up to council and the public to show that we do have some capacity here and some opportunity to put some of this money to work in terms of our infrastructure. So with that, that concluded my general fund presentation. I'll pause here to see if council has any questions.
Questions from council? Councilmember Joseph?
Well, first of all, thank you for the report, and I appreciate it. One quick technical question, if you can go backwards to, I think it was the non-department budget. There was like a $30,000 item for community grant programs. There is. And my question is, can you tell me what that relates to? And the context is, I was talking to the city manager about some of the things that we haven't restored yet from pre-pandemic days. One of them that we're working on is the volunteer recognition event. The other piece was we usually put maybe 25 to 50 grand a year for community groups to come in and make a request. So my question is that community grant program contribution, is that what that is, or is that something else?
Yes, that's exactly what that is. That is when community groups come to us and ask for a contribution. This is what that 30,000 represents. Right. The volunteer event is actually in the Parks Department budget.
Okay.
And that is currently at 25,000. Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that solves half of my comment that I was going to make, that we needed to restore it, but it's already restored, so that's good. Then the second half is we probably ought to reevaluate that process just as we reevaluated the volunteer event, because going back 3 or 4 years, there were some issues with that. And so I will switch from saying we need to find some money to plug in because it's there, and focus on we need to kind of revisit that process and maybe come back to council or come back with some different ways and processes that we can use the funding, but maybe use it in a better way. So that was my first comment. The other one is I appreciate your conclusion that says, in effect, we need to find that ongoing revenue to maintain those new internal service funds. And I agree, and yeah, there's loads of ways to figure it out, and we need to do that. The only other comment is an idea of structurally balanced budgets. That's my term. The other way of looking at it is a operating budget that says, hey, ongoing revenues are covering our ongoing expenses. And it's just a question of, in future budgets, if there's a way that you can go through and say, okay, property tax, sales tax, these are ongoing. One-time recoveries are one-time, and those kind of things, so that we get a sense that we have a really balanced budget by utilizing ongoing revenues and expenses versus relying on one-time monies to cover our operating budget.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, that's like budgeting 2.0, and we're doing a good job with budgeting 1.0, and I'm glad because it's been a long time in coming, and I do appreciate what you're doing and how you're presenting the information to us and to the public. So thank you very much.
Any other comment from council? This is a public hearing item. Okay.
Okay.
Council ready for public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got.
Well, there's more?
I
Okay.
have the second half.
Oh, second half. Okay.
It's a lot of numbers, so I wanted to pause in between and see if you guys had
okay.
any questions after you digested that one piece.
Well, thank you. I like the graphic presentations. It's a lot of times better to compare areas, understand.
So we have the city has a lot of funds. We have our general fund, which is our main operating account. We have special revenue funds, enterprise funds, which is our water sewer system. These are our special revenue funds, which can only be used for a specific purpose. Grant money that we receive for a specific purpose, lighting and landscape assessments that can only be used in that area, in that district. But as we see here, overall, I went through this on our last presentation, but for the public that didn't see that last presentation, I'll briefly go over these. But we have $22.8 million in special revenue fund revenues and $25.9 million in expenditures. The majority of these expenditures from the special revenue funds are going to be used for our CIP program. Major projects include the Green Island Road at $9.5 million, annual repavement program, $1.3 million for the Knight Bridge rehab water main, 1.1 Melvin sidewalk. Now again, these two projects are using ARPA funds, which are federal grant money. Again, they're special. There's a special purpose that we can only use those for, and we've identified these as that purpose. As we look at our capital improvement funds are what we use for our CIP. Money comes in from different revenue sources, and money goes out to fund these major projects. Major projects from the CIP fund are going to be $27.5 million. Again, the Green Island Road is scheduled to spend $9.5 million this year. Parks projects at $4.1 million. There's our ARPA various projects that we're looking to spend $2.2 million in our annual repavement program at $1.6 million. Debt service fund, that's just money coming in from various sources again to pay our debt service. City Hall debt is $468,000. We also have a small general fund portion for NG debt at $37,000. NG is our citywide energy efficiency program where we installed solar panels throughout the city, mainly at the reclamation facility, LED retrofits, battery storage, HVAC controls. So that one is, we have, it was asked last time, we have $4.6 million outstanding for our city hall loan here for this facility. And then our original NG amount is about we have a portion of about $800,000 left on that NG energy efficiency program for the general fund. Our water enterprise fund, these are business types funds. These are funds that should be self-sustaining, meaning money coming in should be enough to pay for money going out. Water operations, $10 million in revenue, $13.8 million in expenditures. Our water purchases this year projected at $3.6 million, transfers out to the CIP of 1.7. Intra-fund transfer out to the water CIP at 2.1. Some of the major projects that were is going to be mentioned again in our CIP project. We have $1.6 million for those annual water main replacements, $350,000 for media filter replacements, and then as I mentioned before, the majority of the revenues that are coming into these water enterprise funds are from the water capacity fee. These are revenues of $8.6 million, up from $1.9 million in fiscal year 23. So roughly a $6.7 million increase. Again, that is as a result of the large development projects that are here that are paying these capacity fees. These are fees that we charge to those developers to expand the system, to increase the pumps, to increase the flow, the meters, the SCADA. The whole system needs to be expanded to accommodate that additional impact from development. So they pay into this water capacity fee fund for our CIP projects. And as I mentioned, we do have a rate study currently in progress. About 2 weeks ago, I received the financials, and I'm reviewing those. So we'll get back to our committee to review those numbers that they provided us. Now we have a rate study for the water enterprise system, the sewer enterprise system, and also our recycled water system. In our wastewater enterprise funds, our operations are $5.3 million, expenditures at $7.6 million. There is a fund balance of $19.9 million projected at the end of this year. Again, as with water, our wastewater capacity fee fund has revenues of $3.4 million, up from approximately $800,000. Again, those are developers that are paying into paying these fees to expand the system and essentially to buy into the system. And some of the major projects for our wastewater CIP fund are the sewer rehab at Sewer Station 4, $700,000, UV disinfection at our treatment plant, $500,000 for blower replacement, and $467,000 for our system, our SCADA system that monitors chemical levels, flows, pumps, etc. This is our recycled water fund. Recycled water fund is a new fund established in fiscal year 21. Revenues of $3.6 million and expenditures of $4.6 million. Some of the major projects that we have going on here is this recycled water expansion project. We'll see in the CIP presentation coming up, $3.2 million. And fill stations, $120,000. We're anticipating to put in 2 new fill stations so that folks can go in there and with a key card, hopefully, and go in and fill their containers with recycled water. Again, this is a new fund. The infrastructure is been built from the ground up here, or some of it has been carried over from our sewer enterprise fund. And since we don't have an official rate study or rate program in place, it's experiencing annual deficits currently. So, but in order to alleviate that and correct that, we are currently in the process of that rate study to figure out what the appropriate charges are. And finally, our internal service funds, revenue of $8.9 million and expenditures of $4.5 million. Internal service funds are building maintenance, fleet, IT, legal. The majority, these are typically balanced, so the money that comes in should be the money that goes out. We're seeing a large amount of revenues, again, because those newly created funds, those renovation and replacement funds are internal service funds. So we're seeing those are going to have positive fund balances at the end of this year. Once we identify those projects, we'll take the money from these funds and go ahead and provide the funding for those projects. And here you see that $5 million transfer from general fund reserves to these new funds. Now, this is what council is approving today. You're approving citywide, not just the general fund, but all fund revenues and expenditures. This is $133.7 million in citywide revenues. This may be a little bit deceiving because there are intra-fund transfers from, say, the Water Operations Fund to Water CIP, so some of that revenue may be double counted. But just the nature of government accounting and the fund structure where each fund has to have its own independent set of books, revenues and expenditures, the total that each fund in aggregate is bringing in is $133 million. And the expenditures of $126 million. Again, I had the transparency portal, but if you want to go into our transparency portal on the city's website, you can access all this information, drill down, and at your leisure, kind of look at it and see how we came up with the numbers and so forth. Kind of a different depiction of those graphs here is our funds revenues coming in. This column here, budgeted revenues for fiscal year 24, and our budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 24, and then our ending fund balance. For the most part, all these funds are positive. There are some that are slightly negative. If we look here at federal grants is okay. A lot of the times those grants are on a reimbursable basis. We anticipate spending that money first, and then we go back and put in the request to receive that revenue. General plan update fee fund, that is negative, something that we need to address in the coming years. Community facilities district, negative. That's actually offset by another fund, which is going to be 603, where the bond money sits. That has $5 million. Again, that money goes and is transferred to that other fund. But just to highlight again, our recycled water fund here at a negative $1.7 million in fund balance. And then here we can see the positive fund balances for our new internal service funds, our repair and renovation and replacement funds here. And then finally, I just wanted to touch bases on our key performance indicators. That was in the agenda report. There's a few performance indicators that we look at here, and what we've identified here based on the council strategic workshop back in 2021. Ensure that American Canyon remains a safe community, build on the strength of our local economy, attract and expand diverse businesses, expand opportunities for outdoor recreation, improve the transportation network within our city to alleviate congestion, develop and maintain infrastructure resources for sustainable growth, and deliver exemplary government services. These are some of our key performance indicators. Maybe a little hard to read. I apologize for that. There's just no big, no good way to show that. But I even have a hard time looking at these here. But kind of what I wanted to highlight here is if we look at the number of dwelling units that were finalized by CDD. Last year we had 1 dwelling unit that was finalized. This year, in 2021. In 2022, we had 161 dwelling units that were finalized. Business licenses, pre-pandemic was about 1,400 business licenses, 1,100. During the pandemic, they actually increased business licenses. Maybe a lot of home businesses were coming on board, but we still see strong activity in business license. Says 1,400. New business license at 347 here. These are some of our outdoor recreation event participation. We had probably 5,000 to 6,000 in our 4th of July Magic of the Season. Kind of died off during the pandemic. Nothing was happening, and then we're kind of coming back, bringing a lot of those programs, a lot of those events. We see participation coming back. Pavement condition index here. We were at 2018, we were at 65. We've been slowly trickling down, 64, 63, 62. Now we're at 60 as of fiscal year 22. Again, that's kind of one of the main reasons we created these renovation and replacements, put money into this to bring up our pavement index, fix our roads, and so forth. And the rest is kind of infrastructure and kind of the water that we use. And then these are just kind of quality services and organizational effectiveness, kind of talking about IT, public records requests, and how we respond to those. City managers, newsletter subscribers, currently sitting at about 14,000. And then kind of an interesting one here is the rate of new full-time employees completing probationary period. You know, somewhere along the line here, we were at 100, 81, 100, 80, 83. Now we're back at 100. And given that, you know, it continues to be a tight labor market and attracting good quality candidates, we had 100% of those employees pass probation in fiscal year 22. So that's a good sign. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Looks very thorough. Thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, again, thank you for kind of updating us on the key performance indicators. I think we're really starting to refine them much better than a couple of years ago, so that's good. Yeah, they're just really hard to see, but
yeah.
A couple of comments. One is, in our latest council retreat, we kind of created a new goal of sustainability, both economic and environmental. So just as a footnote, we also need to start thinking about what are the indicators that reflect that sustainability. So that's an important factor to consider. And like I said, that was my main point, is we need to look at sustainability factors as well. And then going into the budget document itself, there's been this ongoing discussion of, should we have performance indicators based on these 7 or 8 goals, or should we try to target them as they relate to the specific operating departments? And probably the answer is both, but looking at the operating budget, you know, some ability to take some of those KPIs and resort them into the departmental summaries would be good too. I haven't had a chance to look at the budget book, so I don't know if you've already done that or not. But again, we're getting better every year, and that's the whole point of the exercise. So thank you.
Very good. At the council comments. Council ready to open the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Public hearing on this matter is open.
I just had a quick question. I've been reading the newspaper where Governor Newsom is saying we've been having too many taxes, like on hotels, extra taxes, and they're not in the amount that people that make a reservation, and then they're added on all these taxes. So how would that affect our budget if he does that?
Well, there are jurisdictions. For example, if you go down to Anaheim and the Disneyland area, they have really high TOT taxes. I think our tax here at 12% is in line. I hope that we wouldn't be a target for, you know, some jurisdictions have 18, 19%. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Anaheim. So I hope that he may target those and not our 12%. That is kind of, you know, more in line with every other agency. Yeah.
Because the hotel taxes are good.
And also our sales tax. Our sales tax isn't necessarily the highest. We have jurisdictions across the Carquinez Bridge that are over 10%. And we're at
Vallejo, it's 9.75%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and we're at 7.75. So we're not necessarily overtaxing. So hopefully we're not on their radar.
Other public comment? Anybody online?
I have Hugh Marquez.
Hello, I just had one question while looking through your presentation. I saw something on dispensaries, and I know that the city has authorized a dispensary, not a dispensary, I guess it's a dispensary, but it's not a storefront dispensary. And on that, from what I can see, because it was very blurry from home, it didn't show any kind of income or any kind of amount. And I know that this is by being built right now. And has the city, like Vallejo said, what kind of tax that the city is going to impose? And if so, was that thought out in this budget process? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question, Mayor. Thanks for the question, Hugh. In short, we have a couple of operators that are approved. They have not yet come forward and finished their operations. All of them are located to be approved out there in the Green Island area. There's nothing outside of the Green area that would be a Green Island area that would be approved at all. They're still working on securing a location and getting their operations up and running. So our budget does not forecast additional revenues or anything related to cannabis, in particular because we actually don't have a cannabis tax even to begin with. So if there was a wholesale operation that were to fulfill its permit conditions and open up, we might get additional sales tax from them, but we would not get any specific cannabis tax. If the voters decided to impose a tax on cannabis, it would be something that have to get put to a ballot. The council could put something on the ballot, or an initiative of the voters could put something on the ballot. It's not something the city council could do by itself to just impose a cannabis tax. That would have to be the voters. But it's a little bit of cart in front of the horse, mainly because the two operators that have been approved really have struggled to even find a location and struggled to get up and running. Green Island area is a very popular, very low vacancy area, and the prices for all of the operations out there are very competitive. So what you see largely in the cannabis market now is the aftermath of a green wave. Prices are falling quite a bit statewide for cannabis products wholesale. And so pretty unlikely that you're going to see a high cost area like where we are have a lot of new wholesale operations, because the production of cannabis doesn't require anything really special. What you need are large spaces, big lights, and water, and that can be done on cheap land elsewhere as opposed to our area. So we may see one or two of those operations set up, but it's not going to be a massive scale, we don't think, particularly given where we are in the aftermath of the green wave. So we're not budgeting for, it's a long answer to say we're not budgeting really anything for the cannabis revenue.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything further from our... Mr. Marquez still with us?
Nope. No, he is not.
All right. But then we answered his questions the best we could at this point. Anybody else online?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay. Barry, anybody else from the audience wanting to comment? Seeing none, all right, we'll close the public hearing and come back to council for further discussion, desired action.
If there's no other comments, I'll make a motion. I believe it's resolution number 2023 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving adoption of the recommended operating budget for fiscal year 2023-24.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you for all your work on this and your staff as well.
You're welcome, and look what just popped up.
There we go.
Our transparency portal.
There we are.
Yeah, this is all the detail here. Just real quickly, you can go in here in our transparency portal and see exactly all our expenses and revenues and so forth. So just our website, and you can go on there. Thank you.
Great job, Juan. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you for maintaining that and updating it. Next on our item would be business items. Engineer's report for citywide LLAD fiscal year 2023-24.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Mayor, American Canyon Community. I'm Eric Almond-Smithies, Public Works Director. We're here this evening to talk about the LLAD Assessment District, Zone 1, 2, and 3. Traditionally, we bring this as a consent item, but we've made some changes this year from council direction, as well as some finance guidance on implementing CPI in the coming years. This item is typically under consent items I discussed, but this year we had some changes. The council requested a restroom at Silver Oak Park, a new play surface at Via Bellagio as we're doing the playground replacement out there. And then we also realized that we haven't added any CPI for at least 4 years. The annual assessment stayed the same, but we know costs are rising. So in order to keep up with times and keep up in the future, we're at least recommending a 5.59 assessment percent CPI to the assessments this year. And moving forward, you can see the whole details in the report. We took reserve monies to help with the playground improvements, or the restroom at Silver Oak, as well as Zone 1 via Bellagio. So that is Bellagio Park. So there's also a general fund benefit that we looked at for use of the public parks based on reservation guidance and of non-residents versus those within the district. It's about, and then the maintenance on those facilities. It looked about Zone 2 would be a good $30,000, approximately $30,000 general fund benefit for the citywide use of that park and reservations. So that was already shared with you in the budget that was just adopted for next year. So improvements in the district, as well as some shared costs for the events that are put on at Shenandoah and Silver Oak. With that, I am here to answer any questions. There was an error on the resolution when I updated. We didn't have the staff report yet. The public hearings to be set for July 18th, not for June 6th. So that was updated in the staff report and the resolution. So those were minor changes that we just wanted to make sure we're accurate, that everyone got the right
Okay.
item.
Council questions, comments? Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, well, thank you for the report. In particular, thank you for addressing the Shenandoah Park and the other parks as well. That was a bad play, so I'm glad to see we've juggled the revenues and the treatment there, so that, amongst other things, we can have our Holy Festival back at Shenandoah. So Arvin's not here, but I'm sure he will appreciate this. The second one, in Zone 2, because we are, I guess, what was the public feedback on, I guess, all three zones? Because all of them are seeing an increase in their assessments.
Well, we haven't gotten any feedback on this. We did have two pop-ups, one at Zone 1 and Zone 2, and from last year we had about we had one person show up this year for Zone 2, even though we plugged it via email, GovDelivery, and noticing. And then we had about 3 or 4, I think, show up to the Zone 1 pop-up. So, and even some of those residents complained that they didn't have more people show up to be there, because last year there was a lot more at Zone 1. There was only 2 at Zone 2. There was a couple, but so word's getting out, and I think we emailed you council to help us plug it for your constituents.
Yes.
So
Okay, well, if they're not, I mean, the increases are not phenomenal either, so hopefully that will not generate any, a lot of times people don't react until they see the bill and then complain that nobody told them about it, even though we
Usually part of the human behavior on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's true, but
they're pretty minimal increases.
yeah.
I was just wondering, some of them, is that going to be able to keep up with the cost of maintenance? I'm assuming you've looked at that.
yes.
Yeah. There's some areas.
That's part of the reason why we need to start increasing our CPIs.
Yeah.
We've seen labor increases the last 3 years in contracts, but our numbers stayed stagnant.
Yeah.
So
We've got some needs there in the landscaping portion of it, needs some attention, so.
and the irrigation controller upgrade. I apologize, I missed that part too. So there's
okay.
irrigation controller upgrade in all 3 zones. That's being funded partly with Enterprise and with LLAD.
Okay. Well, is that your comment then?
Yes.
Yeah, mine would be just that we're checking and make sure everything's working as it should. You pay a fee for landscaping, you expect it to be as you vision it. Yes. Thank you. Any other comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Get back here to, we have an action to take here. And we do have a resolution.
Well, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any public comments, this isn't the actual public hearing. This is just the let's set a hearing for July 18th.
Well, then let's ask if we have any comment online?
We do not.
Anybody in the public wishing to comment? Then that opportunity has been given.
All right.
Okay.
If there's no other objections, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon initiating proceedings preliminarily approving the 23-24 Annual Engineers Report, declaring the intention to levy and collect annual assessments, and setting the public hearing for consideration of the American Canyon Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District assessments for fiscal year 23-24 for July 18th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you all. Move on now to item 18, five-year capital improvement program, fiscal year 23-24, 27-28.
Good evening again, Erica Almond-Smithies, Public Works Director. Try to brief this, go over these not projects, but go over the projects that were highlighted in Director Gomez's CIP earlier, the budget earlier. I'm having issues with the mouse. There we go. All right. So what we're presenting tonight is a citywide list of projects. We have a long-term plan of 6 to 20 years. As you know, I think Hugh, our public commenter earlier this evening was talking about how are we addressing things. Well, we brought to council a little over a year ago a $650 million need for our city and about $10 to $20 million in revenue that are stable, that are coming in to share all across. And some of those are fixed revenues that have to be used in certain pots like enterprise utility, pavement funding. So we don't have a whole lot to, but we do our best. And from that, we honed it down to a short-term 5-year CIP program. And so this is year 2 from that first meeting with City Council a year ago in January. This year, we already approved the budget appropriations earlier this evening for the 23-24, but this is going to show you the next 4 years as well. Status of funding, what's undetermined, 5-year forecast, and funding availability. Again, here's a nice visual, long-term CIP versus 5-year, and all the different pots of funding of revenues that come in to go in towards our 5-year CIP. And then we have our 5-year CIP phasing. When funding's more certain, we refine our numbers for that given fiscal year. And as we get closer to budgeting it for the following fiscal year, we'll tighten those funds up and revisit the estimates we provided the year before. So anything further out than probably year 2, they're probably ballpark figures unless we have refined numbers. Like Green Island Road, for example, we have more set numbers. We refine those every time we're updating our budget based on known quantities and estimates we think will happen in the project. Here's the 5-year budget summary. That's also in the staff report. Over the 5-year, we have a $60 million approximate CIP budget. The biggest year going forward is going to be this coming year because we're looking to award many contracts. One will be the Green Island Road. We're hoping to bring that award prior to the next fiscal year ending, which is the biggest chunk in transportation funding, about $10 to $12 million for that project. We showed the funding. If we're showing the funding or contracts awarding in that fiscal year, we're trying to show that entire, not knowing that it's not going to be, the funds won't be expended probably until the future year since it's at the end of the fiscal year, but we still want to award that contract with the funds being shown. So here's looking at the pie chart that directed from our OpenGov side. I didn't want to have issues with OpenGov this year, so here's another chart showing the different pots. The transportation being the biggest pie slice in our budget. And then we got 4.1 in Parks and Rec, 2 million in water, 3.3 in recycled water, 2 million in wastewater, civic facilities, community development, American Canyon Road East. I'm not sure where that pie slice shown in there, but this gives you an overall where all our funding is going to in the next 5-year, or in the 23-24 CIP. 23-24 CIP projects, we have approximately 37 projects. The biggest change in this was Parks and Rec, almost doubled from a year ago with all the new improvements we're trying to put in citywide. So that's why you're seeing Similar number to a year ago, even though we closed out a lot this year, but more going to parks. 24 projects are currently budgeted this fiscal year that haven't been completed. 13 are new, proposed in 23-24. Of the new projects, one is a civic project. It's at the Adult Activity Center. It's new flooring. And then we have the new park projects. 2 transportation, they were in the future year last year, but they've been brought in this year. We also got an HSIP grant last year for almost $250,000 for putting guardrail on American Canyon Road East towards the city limits, getting rid of the old K-rail. And then we have 3 new utility projects that are like recycled water filling stations. And then there's 2 water treatment project buildings that were recently approved. So here's the City Hall re-roof, and then the courtyard relocation and facility upgrade this year. New open space, that's a lot of park projects. Hopefully some of those can be combined into a big project going out to bid. But right now they're shown as individual projects. And of those the top 5 or 6 are already in motion as far as new open space, the wetlands edge, wetlands restoration, the playground replacement, and then the skate park relocation. And then the other projects are, on the to-do list. Streets, no surprise, Green Island Road's on there. If they're finishing up the utility underground as far as the city portion of the project, Green Island Road, hoping to go to bid next spring. Wetlands Edge Court extension, that will come in as a notice of completion, the first meeting in July. Anticipated annual pavement management project for 2022, we're anticipating going out to bid in 2 weeks. That's going to be the Cookie Hill, Donaldson Way, Gazella Drive area. Benton Way, that'll follow the recycled water pipeline project. Melvin Sidewalk and Drainage, that's one of our ARPA projects of $1 million. Well, half of that is ARPA. That is under design right now. Knightsbridge was awarded for design award this evening. A new project is South Kelly Highway 29. We have funding from developers to move that forward this coming year. East American Canyon Road guardrail, and then the Rancho Del Mar paving utility design was approved this evening as well. I think there was a question from the audience on what streets are included in that. The biggest street is Rio Del Mar from Highway 29 to Carolyn, and then the pocket streets on either side of Rio Del Mar. And the maps on the staff report from tonight if Mr. Marquez or other members of the public are curious. But with that project and the Cookie Hill annual paving project, we'll have a big chunk of that older subdivision mapped out. Rancho Del Mar has significant water and sewer utility upgrades, and that's why that's a $5 million project by itself that council authorized last March with ARPA funding. About half of it's ARPA funding. Utility projects, we have the recycled water expansion project still underway, the water fill stations, annual water main replacement. The 2 other utility projects was a water treatment plant shop that was approved earlier this year, I believe, and the water treatment plant filter media replacement. And then SCADA, that's an RFP that's going out soon that'll help us get into the current technology and future technology for monitoring remotely our utility systems, alarm systems, and other integrations. We have the sewer rehab on Crawford to Donaldson. Actually, it's a little bit longer portion of the project, as well as the Highway 29 crossing, a UV disinfection and blower replacement project. And then that's it. That's a wrap. Questions?
You're going to be busy.
And I also want to give a good, many of these projects are being designed in-house by your own engineering staff.
Yeah.
Like Rancho, the larger projects of staffing supplies, we are going out to consultants, like SCADA, computerized technology, you go out to consultants. But like our paving, our bread and butter, civil engineering, we are designing that in-house.
Very good.
So keeping costs down for design, and inspecting a lot of those projects, but not all.
Yeah, and it's just what impresses me is the amount of work you're doing, and thank you for that. Thank everybody on the staff who's working on this. It's just not highly visible for the community, a lot of times until it's done. And I'm just reviewing the report and saying, when you had earlier, streets and potholes and things like that. Well, there's a whole lot of in-ground infrastructure needs to be worked on as well when you do that. So I appreciate the fact that you have to have the money and you have to have the people to work on it. And it takes time to get all those pieces done. But, this list of activities, my goodness, yes.
And the biennial transportation or pavement report from Measure T is due this December or January. So we will be coming back to public hearing on all the citywide streets and the program, the next 5-year program period. So I would hope the community will provide input, as we always implore them to do.
Yes,
But,
that would be helpful, but I think, that, you know, just going forward with the work you have to do, much appreciated. Thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, it's a very good report, and, well, it was a speed report, which I appreciate, but I think you'll go into a little more detail on your quarterly update, so we'll get more detail then. It's not in there, I guess I'm just making a pitch on behalf of the people who live on Donaldson, and Donaldson is confusing because it's both an east-west and a north-south. So just because you're saying Donaldson, you're not really specific.
Donaldson from West Carolyn to Eucalyptus is included in this year's 2022.
Oh, okay. I'm also looking at the other Donaldson from, say, Benton Way going north, I guess, to Carolyn or one of those streets. That's also a really worn-out street, and I don't think it's part of our ARPA project. So on behalf of the people who live on Donaldson there, is there a way to, is that in the queue somehow, or if not, can we try to advocate that it get into a future queue?
If we need to prioritize that, I welcome your input on the
Okay.
5-year.
Okay, well then.
And also the utilities. We gotta make sure the utilities are good.
Right, okay. Well then, when that time comes, I'll email you with my 5 or 6 different email accounts and try to appear to be a mob that's supporting you. Thank you.
I appreciate the, excuse me, the work on the sidewalk on Melvin. You know, it's frankly, I think for any future consideration for us for all housing projects, that we have a consider and build at the time that syncs up with the housing being occupied with a safe route to school, bicycle path. And I'm looking forward to that being completed. I don't know, is there an intent to do it all from Donaldson Way to Casera in one effort, or the whole length of it, Melvin? Because I think a piece of it comes down on Wilson over to Donaldson.
Yeah, it's from Cassier to Wilson, and then there's 2 segments that was added along
Yeah.
James Road. So that whole continuity on the east side will be complete, as well as the continuity on the west side of Melvin.
That's one project.
Yes, one project.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Any other comment from council? Any public comment on this matter? Anybody online?
I have Hugh Marquez.
Very good.
Hello, Erica. This is Hugh.
Hi.
And
Good evening, hi.
City Council. I noticed that you said that the Rio Del Mar project will go to Carolyn, and my curiosity is from Carolyn to West Donaldson is one. And while Rio Del Mar is bad by Giselia and Flamingo, the Rio Del Mar from Carolyn to West Donaldson is atrocious. And is there a reason why that won't? I know there may be underground. I believe I've had this discussion with you and with the council probably many times on council meetings. Is there an underground issue with that? As to why that is not part of the complete road fixture or upgrade or whatever, however you want to say it?
I would need to confirm that. I remember we had a lot of underground in that Rancho Del Mar subdivision area as a whole, and we only had so much funds to work with. So we try to, where's the best stop and start in that area? And what we came up with seemed to be the best foot forward, and then try to tackle the rest in the future years.
Okay, thank you. I just curious, because that's a really bad area. I mean, I drive my bicycle, I drive my motorcycle, and I'm literally dodging, and I'm between the cars on both sides and people coming down. The road is just, to me, is just atrocious in that little block. And I know, Erica, I love what you're doing. I'm glad you're doing it, but I'm just being a little bit more picky of our infrastructure, making sure, just like the Donaldson Way area that Councilman, talked about. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate your response.
You got it.
I have no other
Other
comments
speakers?
online.
Okay. Again, public comment. Anybody present? Seeing none? Then we'll move on to close public comment on this. Move on to our council further discussion, desired action.
Well, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2023 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal years 2023-24 to 2027-28.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you all.
Great job, Erica. Thank you.
Move on to business item 19, adopt fiscal year 2023-2024 salary schedule.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Maria Ojeda, Assistant City Manager. The item before you tonight is an item to adopt the resolution approving the salary schedule for next fiscal year. Now, typically, this has been a perfunctory item on consent, but Senate Bill 1436 does require us to actually bring this as a business item now and have the city attorney actually read a specific statement. Unless you have any questions about the actual staff report. This is a standard item we brought to you on consent. It's an annual thing we do. We increase the salary schedule based on CPI per our MOUs or contracts that we have with our employment agreements. So it's a perfunctory item. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Mayor and Council, in order to comply with the statute referenced, I'm going to read the following so that it's specifically in the record. Under California Government Code Section 54953C3, a staff recommendation has been made to adopt the salary schedule as presented in the proposed resolution that enumerates the salary schedule, which includes local agency executives. That's the required notice. The idea was to ensure as a business item that because salary schedules are sometimes comprehensive, that the increases for local agency executives, a defined term, is known when it's approved by the governing body.
Thank you.
Well, see, the key point in the salary schedule is the cost of living increase, 4.2 for general unit, mid-management unit, and unrepresented employees, and 4% for cost of living increase for city manager. That would be effective July 8, 2023. That's the key piece I gathered from this. And as Mr. Ross says, there's a state requirement that we address it. Any further discussion from council? No. Any public comment on this matter? Public comment is open. No. Anybody online?
I have no comments online.
Nobody online. Well, I'll close public comment on this matter. We'll proceed with further discussion from council. Desired action.
Yeah, if there's no other comment from my colleagues, I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 2023 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 salary schedules.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll move on to management staff oral report. Public Works Department quarterly update.
Thank you, Mayor. Erica submitted the presentation as a part of the packet. If there are any questions or any comments you have on the presentation, we should be happy to entertain them now.
You're actually not going to present that presentation?
You can if you want.
Well,
I would suggest you do because it's the most accomplished thing that we need to communicate to the community.
yeah.
Earlier in your presentation about the 5-year fiscal plan, or the capital improvement plan, there was so much going on. In the public, we're not doing anything, right? Why are we not fixing these roads? Just today on Facebook, this evening, I saw a thing saying, why can't they fix a road? I mean, why can't they build that town center before they build another apartment? Like literally ignorance in terms of what is going on. And I think we need to over-communicate everything that this staff and this city is doing. Because quite honestly, if I look around at other municipalities, it is remarkable the amount of capital improvements that we're going to have over the next couple of years, or in fact, the next year. And we should take every opportunity to celebrate that and showcase that and communicate that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you, Councilmember Oro. I'm just pulling up the presentation, and we had some questions about Rancho Del Mar. One of the part of the presentation is that. Well, you can see all the streets in it where they're being addressed. Frankly, I like the visual part of it as well.
Would you like me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, please do, Erica. Thank you.
Yeah, Erica, I think you should walk through it because if you didn't, well, I actually was like, this is inspiring me to write an essay. Rather than like respond to people every day about what's going on or why this isn't being done or when is this going to be done, I was going to actually take excerpts of this whole presentation and just explain what we're doing. And this was the most exciting thing I read on Sunday morning as I read through the packet.
All right.
So, there you go. Sorry, no offense there to our finance director. So
I gotta go.
Don't worry, Juan. I thought the budget was pretty good stuff.
I have to give a shout out to City Manager Holly because he's the one that said we want to see the pictures and visuals where we're at. So
Well, that was part of my Sunday activities as well. Sitting there with my cup of coffee in the morning going, okay, so, it looks like the presentation. Please proceed.
all right. Well, as far as our operations staff, hopefully those who've seen the improvements of the parking lot striping around the various parks, Silver Oak, City Hall parking lots in Shenandoah. They also completed a recent pavement repair work around our manhole facilities in Corvina Court. And Precision Concrete came out and shaved some tripping hazards along many sidewalks. And then the new street same signs, they came in literally last month, and they've started replacing those once the inventory was found. Here's some of the work showing our team out there on Corvina Court literally 2 weeks ago.
Erica, can you go back a little bit on the Corvina Court?
Yes.
I know that street is private, but that was a American Canyon
utility,
public utility. And so we still have issues with that residence locally in terms of that private driveway, or have we tried to address that in any way?
We're still talking to the residents there. We've asked them to gather some documents, some of their formation documents, and that's still going to be quite a bit of a challenge. But in looking at some of the issues out there, that's our public utility in there, and so it's our utility that was sticking out of the ground. So we felt, you know what, we ought to at least make the repair there, and we didn't go through and do all the stuff in the streets on those private streets that they had asked for, but we looked at our public utility, which is inside of an easement, sticking up out of the ground, and it was a pretty easy determination to go and make that fix. So that's the explanation there.
Well, I'm glad too, because it is an issue that a resident had, and we can't address all of her concerns, but it's good to see that we're doing our share of it. So thank you for just dealing with it.
I'm just reacting to the driver in the car who hits that.
Well, that was the fair point, and why we appreciated the resident bringing their concerns. I mean, they had definitely a list of concerns. Like Councilmember Joseph said, we're not going to be able to necessarily address all those in the near term or maybe ever, but the ones that we can take ownership of in a real obvious way, we're able to do that.
Yeah, very good. Please continue.
Here's some before and afters of the Shenandoah Silver Oak Park and Shenandoah Park restriping. Very faded lines. Same with, we didn't have a before photo. City Hall was a little upset about that because I'd like to show before and afters, but maybe you know, there was no lines in some portions of the parking lot, so it's very refreshed, very clear where you should be parking. Here's some capital projects in construction. Green Island Road undergrounding, they've done quite a bit in a short amount of time. As you know, they didn't really get started until about March because of the late rains, and even then they were going slow, but then they've powered through it. They are looking to be completed the next month or two. PG&E has awarded their construction contract, but we still have a date to be determined on when they'll get in. They also need their Caltrans permit for their portion within Caltrans right-of-way. And then following their completion of their work, AT&T will come in on site. But the city contracted portion of work is almost complete, and that was a matter of months.
Just so we understand this correctly, this is the main part of the undergrounding, and before there was right-of-way issues, and then there was easement issues with AT&T, PG&E, Comcast, you name it, whatever utility was there. This means we've kind of resolved all of those, right? And that's why we're digging in. The next part after this phase is paving the road and redoing the road.
The fun part in the Class
Yeah.
1 trail. That's the next slide. Oops. Here's the next phase of the
Coming up to
project.
Green
Oh, look, next slide. It's like I've seen these before.
The next slide shows most of the design of the road widening and road rehabilitation going to go on in the Green Island Road District. You got Hannah Commerce Court, Bezetta Court, Hannah Way, or Hannah Drive from Green Island Road from Paley Loop. There's also the 4,200 foot, I mean, if you show the map, right, the length of Green Island Road will be the Class 1 trail for Vine Trail. So exciting project. That's just the design overview. And then we all know how bad Green Island Road is, and it's not getting any better. So we were trying to patch what we can while we're doing some work, but
A couple of comments. One is, in future years, and I mentioned it to the city manager, there's a project to underground utilities on Hannah Street in like 2 or 3 years in the future, which struck me as odd because we're repaving it in the next year or two. And so I guess there's a project called Hannah, or underground utilities on Hannah Drive. So
that's water. I have to get back to you on that one,
Okay.
'cause you're right.
Yeah, it's just a matter, when you're tearing up Hannah, throw
it
some
now.
pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
it's
the
torn
first
up.
comment. And the other one is a follow-up along Commerce. If there's a way to squeeze a grade 4 bike lane on Commerce somehow by not allowing parks or the big trucks to park where they're not supposed to, but they do anyway, kind of thing.
We could look into that. I mean, the plans are mostly designed, but we
Yeah.
can look at, that's striping, right? So
Yeah,
We've had that conversation here before.
Yeah, so it'd be good to, again, looking forward, as we get more into biking, we need to make sure we have the infrastructure there. And bikes competing with big rigs, almost always the bikers lose, so we want to make sure they're safe. So if there's a way to plug that into the equation, yeah, it's mostly striping, I don't think it's that expensive, but it just needs to be caught or as an afterthought somehow. But
What's already contemplated are Class 2 lanes on either side, and so the concept would be to migrate it to a Class 4 on just the south side. There's some geometric issues we need to think about, but, no, sorry, the south side,
Yeah.
the west side. But it's on the radar.
If there's a way to plug that in, I know the Bike Coalition would be happy because they brought it to my attention 2 or 3 years ago, and so I'm just letting them know that even though they've moved on, I'm still bugging you. Thanks.
You're welcome. The recycled water expansion project, I showed all 3 slides up here, including we had the Benton Way, Spike Rush Circle, Devlin and Tower Road, and then the Lombard and Hess Drive. Lombard and Hess Drive is under, Oat Hill is under condition to do that extension, but we've still shown it here because it's still an option that the contractor, or the city contractor could lead that project and the city gets reimbursed. But I wanted to still show that because that is the intent of that overall expansion. As you're aware, there's some delays right now on that, but we're hoping to get back underway later this summer. And skate park relocation approved earlier this fiscal year, or the contract was awarded in February. They're under design, the hope to break ground in September at the Veterans Park. And then the only change in risks are claims, underground conflicts, or weather delays. And that's being paid by park impact fees and our federal ARPA funds. Playground replacement, equipment's coming in or is in. We might be getting some replacement parts, but we're going to be looking at the first, I think, county-inclusive park in Napa County, and the first one for the city at Northampton once it gets installed, and then other great improvements to Linwood and via Bellagio Park. Wetlands Edge Court, just about wrapped up on there. We have some punch list items, but we're hoping to bring that back in July for notice of completion, so long as everything's paid up and punch list items are completed with our contractor, Argonaut.
Is the entrance to the paintball jungle still there?
Yes, sir.
Right there on that court?
Yes. An additional entrance to Spirit Horse as well. And then SDG 217 is going to be connecting the Class 1 trail down. They're currently, we coordinate with them the design of their project because the end changed, right? The bulb was coming, so we've been coordinating with their design consultant on that project. Teresa demolition, that was, the notice of completion was closed tonight by council. That was a very quick project once it got underway. We even had team drills done by Vallejo and with coordination with the American Canyon Fire District, and I think some Napa firefighters as well. So it was a great team project, and then to be able to demolish it in the end. Now the next step is to figure out what to do with it. Elliott Drive Enhanced Crosswalk, another notice completion. This was an ARPA project. The second one completed. The Class 2 bike lanes were first completed in Vintage Ranch. So this is the second ARPA completed this fiscal year. Was the rapid reflective beacons at the Adult Activity Center on Elliott Drive.
Looks like you got an Abbey Lane photo down here. Those of us who remember the Beatles.
Yes. And then here's just a snapshot of the projects currently in design before we get going in the next fiscal year. The 2022 annual pavement project going out to bid in the next couple of weeks, and begin construction. Ideas get it constructed, started construction this fall. And it includes Donaldson Way from Eucalyptus to West Carolyn, Elke, Gazella, Rita Court, Jana Way, and Rebecca Court. So that'll be a nice big area to get completed. The wetlands restoration plan still underway. We should have our final feasibility studies from ESA by later this summer, and then meet with our technical advisory committee for the grant, and then bring it back to the public for another webinar this fall. And so that project's moving really well forward. As you know, last meeting last month, you agreed a project level agreement because we got a $65,000 additional grant funding from Measure AA because they were so excited about the Ecology Center. So it's a really cool project, and hoping we get more finalized plans so we can start going after the funding to get those projects implemented.
But just for clarity, is this where Glass Beach is? Is this all the way out there towards the end of Green Island Road by the airport? I'm trying to figure out where.
This is, we walked to Glass Beach. This is with two of the estuary, the grant management team from the San Francisco Bay Authority.
Yeah.
They came out and did a site visit. It was literally that day. They went to the Ecology Center or the Courtyard, and were excited about the Napa River Ecology Center coming in and along the wetlands bay shore. And so that's the day they got excited. I think I can get you some more money. So the site visits are very important with our grant folks. And, I was the first time a state agency has said we'll give you more money, without having to write another grant. So that was wonderful. But we toured Glass Beach. We walked the North Slough, the kayak feasibility sites, and the Courtyard relocation area. So they're excited about our projects, and they want us to get this done so they can start giving us more money to implement projects. So for those who are not aware, this is kayak feasibility study, kayak launch feasibility study, the North Slough, the Culvert area, and then the potential site for the Ecology Center, and decommissioning, hopefully, the overflow ponds, or provide ideas on how to do alternate solution or of a phasing, what we can do in the near future and in the long term for the overflow spill ponds. There's one left. Benton Way Rehabilitation Enhanced Crosswalk. This is was supposed to be part of the annual pavement project, and then we had the ARPA project for enhanced crosswalk, at least at Chaucer and Benton Way. So it's an opportunity to implement improvements, bulb outs along all the crosswalks on Benton Way, and improve the Class 2 bike lanes. Once we repave and rehabilitate Benton Way, this project will follow the recycle pipeline project. So this was supposed to be out to bid now, but because of the recycle pipeline delay, this will be coming out probably next spring for advertisement. And then hopefully, if we can time it right, we always try to time things right, when schools close, get this work done. Yeah. So that's the goal here, because that's going to just be, but then you have the community facility activities in the summer, but we try to do what we can to reduce delays, but I think everyone's gonna be excited to have new pavement there on Benton Way.
Conversations I've had with the principals at both Donaldson Way and the middle school. Family comment is that Benton Way, Elliott intersection, right past Community Park 2 there. They're concerned about crosswalks. You know, if there's something we can do to improve safety with flashing crosswalk signs, something like that.
Well, at least on Benton Way, there's talk about bulb outs at the crosswalks. There are already three-way stops there,
Okay.
like Chaucer and Benton, and then you
Yeah.
have, I think, is it Hummingbird, the next one down?
Yeah.
So have bulb outs and shorten that distance of crossing.
Okay.
So higher visibility of those crossing the street. And you don't put flashing beacons at a already controlled stop intersection.
Right.
But
Yeah, they were just wanting something, well, it's about 20 minutes a day in the morning and 20 minutes a day in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. It's school's out and kids are, they get, well, all the middle school kids, that's a mob out there on the corner. So anything we can do to improve safety, appreciate it. Thank you. I'll pass that along.
All right, and then here's the Melvin Road sidewalk and drainage improvements. It's under design now. The goal is complete design by December, have it out to bid earlier in the year. Since it is sidewalk, there's a potential it could get started sooner, but if we have another rain year like we did, they'll probably be waiting until March, April to start, because we are, working along existing, dirt edging there. So that'll be an exciting project with the drainage improvements along there. New trail open space, property acquisition is currently underway. We're hoping to close that out by December for the trail alignment. Pending funding, potential advertisement in March next year, and construction by the summer. General fund and park impact fees, and then the Habitat Conservation Grant is funding for this project.
Isn't some of that funding also from Canyon Estates property? They funded part of that. Some of the funding came from that because that was part of our conditions of approval to do that. And so that funding source should be part of
Correct. You're correct, Councilmember Warren. There is a contribution as well from developer fees such as Canyon Estates.
Okay, good.
Stormwater master plan, this is also currently underway. The consultant just received all their we hopefully it's the end of all the data collection. There's been a lot of older projects that hadn't been scanned, so we had to do a lot of scanning of past projects and send them all the information and data for the entire watershed for American Canyon. We will hopefully have preliminary modeling results in September with a draft CIP list in time for next year's budgeting, next 5-year CIP program. If there is projects, I'm sure there will be projects identified in that report. And a final plan next May, and that's 100% funded with Measure A. Wetlands Edge Enhancement, this one's kind of been parked, but we need to get moving on it since it's a granted project. It is out at the trailhead at Eucalyptus and Wetlands Edge Road, and it involves an open area, alternative shade structure or shade sail type of cover, open to see the wetlands, and then a bathroom structure, and then some enhanced garden, master gardener, or what do you call it? Landscape area around it. That was an exposition, I think the grant said, of different plants near the wetlands. And then the SS4 Broadway sewer. It's kind of hard to show a sewer project, so I wanted to show you what we're hoping to do, which is pipe bursting, and give you an idea of what we're doing, the trenchless method along Highway 29, because as you know, it'd be a really difficult project to do a traditional open trench along there, and then also with the tie-in across Highway 29 to Watson Ranch Backbone, which is in discussion. This makes it less impactful to all, including residents that are along that shoulder or businesses. And here's Knightsbridge Rehabilitation, water main improvements. It's from Elliott Drive to Dan Rose and includes all the cul-de-sacs. This is identified in the water master plan and also on our Measure T project list, prior 5-year list. So this is one of your big ARPA projects that you just awarded tonight for design. So
Okay, just curious on this one. Knightsbridge, I think probably late 80s. Somebody here that's been here a while,
No.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or late 80s.
Yeah, is this an average time frame for rehabilitation, or is it probably wasn't put in the right way, should have lasted longer? It seems soon. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Or is there something else going on there that,
There's portions of Cookie Hill that are in better shape than Knightsbridge, and it was built in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So if that gives you,
No, sequentially, this guy was here way before
Way before?
Cookie Hill. Well, not way, but a few years before.
okay.
Miriam was living there, so, or not on Knightsbridge, but in that,
Yeah.
okay.
Four years, 5 years.
Early years.
so this
Early
is an
80s.
early end of life for this infrastructure here, you think?
I would say so.
Yeah,
E90.
okay.
There's a lot of alligator cracking and just a lot of pavement failure in that,
Yeah.
in the cul-de-sacs as well. So, if you look at some of the other areas around, it's not as bad. So it's just a bad inspector that day, bad, did he go to lunch early and the guys, I don't know. You can always wonder, or bad product that day, that can happen. So look at some of the manholes that have raised up in some of the newer, it all depends on that day, or if they have the right subsection, right geotech, the perfect,
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious.
there's a. Victoria.
Yeah,
Okay.
Victoria Fair.
No, that's Napa Meadows.
Meadows, okay.
The Napa Meadows.
Victoria Fair, I
Right,
think.
Victoria Fair is on the north side of
Yeah.
Benton and Donaldson. Napa Meadows. Those are in the late 1980s. Yeah.
Does our Director of Maintenance Utilities have any comments on Knightsbridge? Okay.
Yeah,
And also, so it's the pipeline, right? So if you're starting to fail on your water lines out there, that's going to deteriorate your pavement faster. So that I didn't miss that, So if there was more leaks, it's going to.
No, living in Napa Meadows, there was a water main on our street that had to be replaced. It just constant leaks. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
one of the things that we've looked at over time, this is a steel pipe, and there's no cathodic protection on the pipe, so we're replacing it with PVC pipe. So
Yeah.
there are sections of town that have pipes that have corroded a little sooner than one would expect, and a lot of different theories around it. But we're replacing it with plastic that won't corrode, and then the areas where we have fittings with metal, we do put the cathodic protection on those.
we looked at the gas lines in that area. So they should have a protective coating on it. Like bazillion years ago, worked for the gas company. If they put them in clay soil with no protective covering, it ultimately will leak because the soil erodes the metal.
PG&E was provided these lists because they know they're going to have a moratorium for 5 years. So
Okay.
I don't work for PG&E, so I'm not sure what they put in.
Oh, I just was wondering.
But that's why we provide them these lists in advance, making
Yeah.
sure that they know we're doing
Okay.
work, so they get out there in advance.
Yeah.
We waited on Cookie Hill to do work up there because AT&T was looking at potentially putting in fiber optics, and then they backed off of that decision.
Just wondering how
left a
many
mess.
gas lines they're replacing due to leakage. Yeah.
As an FYI, these subdivisions were put in before the city incorporated, so
Okay.
just for bragging rights, this wasn't a city job.
And then here's the Rancho Del Mar paving and utility improvements. I do have a map showing up on here on the area that's being designed right now, or after this evening, we'll get a kickoff meeting and start design. Again, they provided an aggressive design window and with the March advertisement, so we could have a lot of construction projects out beginning next spring. So everyone wants the work done, and then it starts happening, and then they're all complaining. But I always say, yay, we're getting it done, and then wait for the complaints to come in, but hopefully not, because everyone's so excited to get their street fixed. So there's a lot of work in some of these cul-de-sacs, like Delray Court and Alta Loma. It'll be a great project to see this completed, and maybe by next summer, fall.
Wow.
Maybe next summer our emblem for a city bird might be the jackhammer. So seems like a lot of work. So
And this one requires sewer and water improvement, so it's not just water on this one, it's sewer and water, so it's a big endeavor. And then to commercial development, not to talk so much highly about the capital projects being designed, Canyon Estates, almost completed.
I'm sorry, what is the I drove up there today and I saw a couple sold lots. Do we know the latest status on that, other than a couple sold lots? Nope.
No,
Okay.
I don't have any updates.
So Canyon Estates also being overseen by development and our development engineer and Public Works, Edison Biznar. Watson Ranch, that's a big project on its own. You have the Watson Ranch backbone of utilities. If you haven't been out there on site in the last 2 weeks, wow, or in the last month, it's just expanding. Vertical development is just amazing out there. I haven't seen projects like that since the 90s in Florida. So it's happening in my hometown of Napa County, right? So it's just American Canyon. It's amazing. The older olive trees going in along Rio Del Mar. It's going to be beautiful when it's complete. Affordable housing unit, Lemos Point. Again, it's just booming out there, and they're putting their final paint. And it's just blown away by all the work they're getting done on the affordable housing. Artisan subdivision, they already have people living in some of those homes. 8 homes occupied, but I think more to come later this month. And then Harvest Division, Lot 10, Marcus. I was told new residents will be in there in a couple of weeks. So I was out there for some of the water flow testing for the fire hydrants. It was pretty neat to watch and have them pass their inspections and walk through one of the model homes that they have on the corner there. Napa Cove Apartments, that's also going vertical right now. They're working on their PG&E undergrounding still with, I think, the contract. We got alert today that the contract, PG&E is getting it scheduled. And then Home 2 Suites. You know, amazing that it was just a dirt pad there a few months ago, or seemed like a few months ago or last fall, and it's going vertical. And the PG&E Regional Service Center, if you haven't been out there, that one's been changing, work in progress. I haven't been out there myself in the last month or two. And then Copart, which is the end of Green Island Road in the city limits. Work is underway there. And then Oat Hill, we've all been watching that fun grading project up behind us on the hill. They're still progressing on their mass grading, and I believe we got improvement plans. I don't have Director Cooper here, but improvement plans coming in for the building. And that'll include some improvements on Napa Junction and Teresa as far as utilities, and then the widening of Napa Junction to connect to the Oat Hill apartments. And then SDG 217, this is where they're going to match was SDG 330 on Commerce Court, as well as connect the Class 1 trail to Wetlands Edge. And then I have to plug the We Heart Safe Streets campaign. Wish more people would be submitting their pledge to the city, saying they're going to be a better driver and help promote better safe driving to all. And I still have to plug Vice Mayor Washington for being the first one to sign up. Because you do get a cool Klingon for the back of your window saying We Heart Safe Streets. So with that, are there any questions? A lot going on.
Thank you for the presentation. You know, this is, the visual component of it really helps people understand it. Just thinking, be great if we had can we put this PowerPoint on the city webpage so you can pull it up real easy? And
Yes.
if it's buried in a council report, that's going to go, that's hard to find.
Definitely, this is, definitely a show and tell item.
It is.
It lets you know that in the next 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, but it's as much reinvesting in the existing community than it is just commercial development.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times people grumble and say, oh, they're building all this stuff, but they don't take care of the roads. Well, we're dealing with the roads and the parks, and there's as much or more of that in this progress report than just all the development that's going on. So it makes you feel good that in a couple of years people won't complain as much.
Oh.
I have faith. Or
I just want to, I like the presentation. It really tells a great story about the activity and the work that's going on here in American Canyon. And the thought occurred to me while we were watching this, because some of the questions came earlier about what the citizens of residents of American Canyon know about what's going on. I direct people to the city webpage all the time, but if there's an easier link to find that there, something on there, one of the tabs there, they could pick it up a lot easier, just review this whole thing. This is an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Wow. And we have the League of California Cities, Cal Cities North Bay Division, going to be visiting us, was it the 15th?
Correct.
And it was to be great take home or show just for them. Just say, okay, this is what's happening in American Canyon.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're going to be at the Ruins Gardens. And that's something to brag about too. But, you know, it's also a way of showing what can be achieved. Yeah. Any questions from council?
No, sir.
Public comment is open. Anybody from the public wishing to comment? Right. Anybody online?
Hugh Marquez. Go ahead, Hugh.
Thank you, Erica. Great presentation. Good to see that since you've been in, we're really progressing in the city and improving our infrastructure. I'm so happy that the city council and you thought about the inclusive playground. And I think that's great that American Canyon will be one of the only on this side of the bridge at this time to have one. I think it's a great asset to our city. Again, thank you for the presentation, Erica.
Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else?
I have no one online.
Anyone want to
Okay.
speak in tonight?
Well, thank you. Tremendous amount of work going on.
That's right.
And I was just, well, it's a, you know, show and tell and the feel-good type of report, you know. We like those types of things. We do accomplish, staff does accomplish things in American Canyon for the betterment of the community. Thank you.
A great team, hard at work. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Mayor Council comments, committee reports, and future agenda items.
Mayor Director, Park and Rec Director Akita also has a management update.
Oh, okay.
If you wouldn't mind. Also some fun things to share, I'm sure.
Oh, good.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to tell you all the wonderful things that are happening around American Canyon over the next couple weeks. On June 8th, we have our Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. On June 14th, the Chamber of Commerce will be having their first Meet Me in the Streets of their summer series down on American Canyon Road from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be amazing. I talked to Valerie this week, and she's super excited, and there's a lot of great food and vendors, so please come out and support if you have time. On June 16th, we are going to be hosting the American Canyon Pride event at Community Park 2 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on June 18th, we have our Juneteenth Community Fest at Main Street Park from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then on June 19th, city offices are closed. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Surprise, one more. Good evening. I'm Jen Kanzenbach, City's Communications Manager. So quite a few years ago, 2013 is the earliest I could find record of, the city started organizing an annual citywide yard sale. It had been going on for at least a decade before that, organized by the community. So this past weekend was the annual yard sale, and there were 103 yard sales throughout town. So since 2013, we average about 100 a year, which is incredible. It's a very popular event. So next year, you can save the date from May 31st to June 2nd. And then also, this initiative was started part of like a neighborhood connectiveness to get neighbors to connect with each other and also to help residents get rid of items that they no longer wanted. And so in the fall, we also do a clean sweep month, which includes a final sweep day. This year, we'll have a tire take-back event with free paper shredding on September 16th. So stay tuned for that too. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you. That's all?
That's all,
Very
Mayor.
good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for all the activities going on in American Canyon. Now moving on to Mayor Council comments, committee reports, and then we'll take up future agenda items after that. We have some prompts here underneath the top here. For example, Napa County Local Agency Formation Commission update. Councilmember Abadalos, Anything to report?
Yes, so the last couple of weeks have been extremely busy. We've all been going to everything, so I'm not going to list everything, but I'm going to highlight a few things. One is we had our LAFCO meeting yesterday, and it was not a very eventful meeting, but we did do something important. We passed the 2023-2024 budget. It was presented to us on April 3rd. We sent it back to staff requesting that they include a fire and emergency medical services MSR. So they came back yesterday, included $100,000 in the budget in order to do a countywide fire and EMS MSR. And we also appointed an ad hoc subcommittee to work with staff on the RFP for hiring the consultants to do that. So that was cool. Our chief was there advocating for the MSR. There was not a robust discussion about it, unfortunately, so he was just kind of there watching, and then it got approved, and it was not an exciting meeting, but exciting things happened. We also had the North Bay Executive Committee meeting recently, and as the mayor alluded to, we are hosting the North Bay Division meeting here on June 15th, so if you haven't RSVP'd, please do so. We are going to be showcasing Limos Point and talking about affordable housing. Jason's going to do an awesome presentation for us, no pressure. And if you would like to RSVP to me, I can get that over to Nancy Hall Bennett. Otherwise, RSVP to her directly.
I'd like to RSVP, and I'll try to follow up with Nancy too.
On the record, I got you.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to highlight real briefly, and Mayor, you and I were both there for the fire badge pinning ceremony.
Yeah.
The reason why I wanted to highlight that is because for the first time in American Canyon history, we inducted battalion chiefs. So it was really cool. It was a really special day. Yep. And then everything else, I'm sure you guys are all aware of.
Well, Vice Chair of the North Bay Division, thank you for
the annual conference is coming up in September,
yes.
and I will be sworn in as the chair, or the president of the North Bay Division.
Right, very good, yes.
Super excited.
Thank you. So what do we hear? Climate Action Committee. Well, I'll report out on that. It was, again, looking at the biggest piece of it was looking at the work plan, and the conversation kind of got into what are our priorities. So something that I raised a point on, why can't we have some sort of activity that we want to get done? We can incorporate that into the plan as the plan moves forward. So it was a bit of a discussion, and the takeaway was we wanted to look at charging stations for electric vehicles. Now, it's very rudimentary discussion on it, but okay, what do we have in terms of plans for new houses? For example, Watson Ranch, is there a charging point in each house built? Well, if not, is there a conduit available to put it in when time comes along? Now, that plan's already been approved, but certainly something we could consider any future development. Multifamily housing presents a particular challenge in that regard. But as we move more and more toward electric vehicles, what are we doing with EV chargers in construction? So that was our takeaway to come back to our city councils, and County Board of Supervisors actually is a member as well, and talk about that. How should we analyze it? Frankly, for me, I'd like to see, okay, certainly the feasibility of new construction going forward with that. What are the costs of that to implement it? It would be important. Minimum to me at this point would be at least a conduit available, so you can pull the wiring through, put in the charger and the batteries if the particular person wants it. Frankly, I don't know how we handle things like multifamily housing with it, because it's a fact that's going to reveal itself down the road here as we become to all electric in a few years. And then the other piece would be, what do we do with retrofitting then? So something to be mapped out for us in terms of some look at for individual cost on that might be helpful, or something on a way that begins to focus our attention in this area. And that would be the major part of what that happened with climate action, other than, finances, budget, et cetera. Napa Valley Transportation Agency.
I can take
Councilmember
that
Joseph?
one. Since we share both of those, I'll let you do climate action, I'll do NVTA.
Right.
We had our annual retreat, it was focused on transit, and the main point there being that ridership hasn't really fully recovered since the pandemic, and frankly, we need to come up with more money to keep our public transit. And the factoid that struck in my head the most was comparing the level of support for public transit on the East Coast compared to the West Coast, that the East Coast significantly invests more in public transit than we do. So granted, there's a higher density on the east side, but it's still instructive that maybe some of the problem is we don't put enough public money into public transit. The other part of it, which was really fun, is we got to have a tour of the Vine maintenance facility that's being constructed, and that's always kind of neat. And what's really cool is they are retrofitting at least one of the bays for their buses so that they can process hydrogen-fueled buses, and they may actually retrofit all of them so that they can handle electric, hydrogen, and traditional, which is, for me, very forward-thinking, because I think we're going to see more hydrogen buses than electric ones. That would be my report on that one.
Thank you. Napa Valley Tourism Improvement.
Yeah, I would love to give you an update, but unfortunately, I'm going to miss the meeting because I'm going to attend the North Bay Divisions League meeting that's happening. So there's a conflict on that one, and the next NVTC board meeting is Thursday. So there is a conflict. I don't have anything to report on that front. But I will say that the ABAG meeting is coming up. Mayor Garcia and I will be there. We just got the agendas. We'll review those and should be able to report that out by on our next meeting on the 20th.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Moving on with the council and mayor council committee reports. Council, Vice Mayor Washington, anything to report?
Nothing to add. I just want to say that we had a great Memorial Day event last Monday. Cindy Bitterman did a good job. The city staff collaborating, I thought was an excellent collaboration amongst us all. And it was very memorial, so I just want to say thank you for everybody that participated.
Okay. Anything, council members, anything further to add to your comments so far? All right. ABAG report had a section on the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, BayREN, and it's recognizing that we will be moving more toward electric, and actually part of the discussion was replacing appliances in houses. Gas, water heater lasts so long, then you have to replace it. Well, it's very forward thinking, because part of this is like, okay, where's the workforce to do this? There's opportunity to train career technical on these types of areas in apprenticeship programs. So certainly something to be pursuing, very forward looking. I had the opportunity to replace the furnace in my house. It wasn't working. This was a few years ago. And the Napa Meadows area is a furnace and a water heater in the same closet. Open the door, and what's all this water underneath the water heater? So I ended up replacing the water heater too. And that was a big bill. And it only gets higher from that point on. Also took up Assembly Bill 1053, multifamily housing. Allows developers to receive some financing from the state for that, taking out more expensive private loan for construction. That's worth looking into more. The National Estuary, this is a good one here. It authorized to accept $990,800 from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for the San Francisco Estuary Blueprint, an estuary program. And we have an estuary here from the North Bay, which is certainly worth looking at in terms of what might help the Eco Center coming in. The other meeting I attended that kind of relates to that is North Bay Watershed, and they're very excited about finding out more about our Eco Center. They're going to plan a field trip out here for all the attendees. They're presentation also relates, because the main part of it was a very academic level presentation on the Sacramento Delta and what it originally looked like, and what the impacts of sea level rise will be, and how do we, and the greenhouse gas sequestration that occurs in that type of environment. So the work was pointed out areas they could restore in it, and recognizing there's a piece of that presentation that applies to our wetlands area. It's not exactly the same. There's no agriculture area. It's not 8,000 acres. Ours is about 400 something. But that's a good take home in terms of what to add to an environmental education program in terms of wetlands at our eco center. Attended the bike bash. That was cool. It was found out our police officers have bicycles now. Thank you, Chief. And they joined in the ride. We did a little ride around through that neighborhood in down in it was Community Park 1, down to wetlands and around and back. Family event, kids on bicycles too. So it kind of helped reinforce that. See on the yeah. Oh, we had Circle K ribbon cutting next door. We did that, and the Kid Commerce, the American Canyon Chamber, they put together. That was over in Canyon Plaza. Wow, what an event! I mean, this is an incredible program that the Chamber of Commerce has put together, and a lot of that led by, Valerie Zizak-Marias, our CEO. Wait to hear the results on it, because there was kind of a rating thing you could do on all of them. Kids Commerce, I think that's kind of I'm caught up. I just want to comment on Memorial Day, as Vice Mayor Washington's comments as well, I appreciate. That was a very significant day, and I just really like the way it's put together. When you plant a flag in front of the stage there with the name of a loved one on it who has passed, it brings a lot of memory to that. It makes it personal. Before you're more of a spectator, you're just an attendee. But this one makes each of us who do that a piece of that. And I would encourage those other people to participate as well and to continue it. And I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Washington for his part with the BFW. And it's 11:23, thank you. But yeah, it brings a lot of meaning to that. And that would conclude my report. Anything for future agenda items? I've mentioned one already with the EV chargers. We could look at that. And that's just a very 30,000 foot at this time, but some way of getting an idea of impact and how we might address that.
For what it's worth, I would agree with the mayor. I think it's something we can do almost as a matter of policy, if not a zoning ordinance, because if we simply say any new construction has to be EV ready, and maybe any parking lot has to have at least one EV charging station, and that alone will get the ball rolling for all new development at least. So I would like to see something like that come forward.
Thank you. All right.
The county is, I'll be talking with my colleagues on Friday about this. County is working on an effort through the CAC on inventory type thing. So yes, you'll see something coming back. I'm not sure yet what form.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anybody else for future agenda items? If not, I think we have concluded our business for the evening. Yes, we are. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night, American Canyon.